Hey guys, so I'm doing a little bit more work on the tubing or pipe bender or whatever you want to call it. And I bent some round stock on it, and I did not pack the center of it. I wanted to see how it did, and it did quite well. These are the ends that I cut off, but it does turn it, it flattens out basically one side of it. One side stays pretty good, but the other side gets flattened down. That's where I stopped. So I wanted to take that a little further and see what was the other end of it, where I stopped. I wanted to take that a little further and continue on working on this thing and try to make it a little bit more useful, universal. I don't know what you want to call it. I was thinking about making dies for it. What I can use on this is 1-inch diameter shaft. And I was thinking about, first of all, like weightlifting equipment. I got the collars on the end, and I was thinking I can kind of put those on there. I can kind of change the size of them. So I went to the scrapyard, and I saw they had those, and the castings of them are pretty shitty. So I was kind of, well, maybe not. So I started looking around, and while I was thinking about that, I was going to come back with a caliper. I wanted to see how close they were to a 1-inch diameter, because if they're like, first of all, if they're oval or if they got a lot of slop in them, it's just not going to do it. It's not going to make them even bend. And when I was walking around, I located these guys, and these are like when you're loading your boat on the trailer, and I believe your lines go over this. I'm not sure, but there was a bunch of them that were all together, and I took a guess that these were 1-inch, and they kind of looked like it was a 1-inch with the brass in them. So I said, all right, let me go home, and I'll hit it with the caliper, and they were definitely 1-inch, but unfortunately there's a shoulder on the inside of them so that the bushings would only go in so far. So decided to take that and chuck it up in the lathe, and I hollowed out the center of it, so now it's 1-inch going all the way across, but I think I want to knock off some of the shoulder on each side of it, because this is not really going to do anything for me. So I'm probably going to knock off, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch of that diameter, so it gives me a little bit more room on the bender. And I'm not sure yet. I might take some of the material out of the center so the sides can come in a little bit closer. I'm not sure of that. You figure this is probably a 1 3/4 inch, so 1 3/4 inch tubing, you'd be dead on the money. And how with smaller stuff, it's probably close to 1 inch, so you're going to be laying in the die, something like that. So it's kind of going to be the same deal, where the contact area is only going to be, on a very small spot. So, and the other part of it is too, for the one that's on the drive, I'm gonna have to make it so you can lock it down to the shaft, so when you're cranking it, it's gonna pull the material along. If it's gonna spin, nothing's gonna happen. So I'm gonna continue on with this. Maybe just go stick this on there. I don't want to be wasting a bunch of tubing chopping it up, but I don't know. I'm gonna start with whittling down the size of this, and we're gonna figure out where we're gonna go from there. I'll save you the chattering noise, but that's how much I decided to take out of the center. One side's already cut off, and I'm just kind of running the parting tool off and taking off the other side. Kind of see how those two fit together. Alright, so what I decided to do is just take a rat tail file and just kind of work on that profile that's in there, so that I can get that pretty close to the taper of the pipe. I'm gonna cut into this one a little bit more, I think. So I'm trying to get it where you can see it. A little backlight. That's pretty close. And I'm kind of wondering if I could leave it where these two are separate, so if I run with a wider pipe, I can actually probably put the center back in it, for that matter. But I want to kind of set up so 1 inch is probably the smallest I'm going to end up doing. There's actually more of those down there, and they're just $2 a piece, but I think that might work out pretty good. And then maybe weld a collar onto each side of it, and run a set screw in it, so that I can kind of bring them in together and clamp them where I want them. And again, if I want to open it up, I can. I'm kind of going back and forth between that and just running a weld right around the center of it, and then coming back and filing it and just making it the size that I want it. I may grab a larger piece of pipe right now, just kind of see how it fits when it goes higher up, when you start getting into this area. And we'll see. I think as long as you're pretty damn close, I think you'll be okay. But I don't know. And this is stainless. I tried this, the camera light on and the big light off. You kind of see it, like I got that ground in to kind of match that profile pretty good, other than the very, very center. It's off a little bit, and you know, if I need that for weld room. But then I grabbed a piece of 1.5 and I stuck that in there, and it's okay, but you can see the gap in the bottom, so I'm kind of wondering, I could probably leave them at the same spacing. Yeah, well, one of two things. Either one, just put a spacer in between it, it'll drop down further into it, or just continue on up the sides where it's touching now, which is like up where this rusty spot is, and grind some of that away. So I think that's going to work on, you know, no harm, no foul, and that way it'll kind of fit either one of them that drop in there. So I think that's going to continue doing. I'm going to keep gawing away at that a little bit and see if we can kind of make one size fits all, or fits a couple. And we got just a little too fat in here for useful purposes. The bottom's out, so we got to make some room. So using a lathe takes forever, so I'm going to see if I can kind of speed that process up a little. See how this works for us. I want to go that way. I think what I want to go do is slow it down. I'm going to put it in back gear so it's spinning a little slower. Back gears. You can see it, I drew a black line on there, give myself an idea where I want to go down to. Yeah, a little more. Then I'm going to take it out, I'll flip it over, do the other side, and we'll do more of the same. Just want to give you an idea what I'm doing. Alright, 2 out of 3 are together. I ended up getting some from weightlifting equipment. These are the things that you would lock the barbells on the bar. So I figure I use those for keepers, for keeping it from sliding from side to side. And I'm going to change these out to set screws. But this is the drive one, so I'm probably going to have to weld this to this so that, you know, these draw the pipe through it. And I only got one more to go, but I want to show you the clearance. Am I going to be able to? Or is he going to want to focus on the front thing? So there is... 1/4 inch, something like that underneath there, just so that I don't touch on that bottom plate, and you know, you're gonna get some flexing on that too when you're pushing up on it. So want to make a little bit of room. So I just have one more to go make, and we'll put it on this side, and we'll stick a piece of pipe in it. We'll see how it does. And we're do or die point. I got it all back together. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't put set screws in, change these out for set screws. I did weld those hubs to them, and they were shouldn't get in the way as long as they don't slide forward and come in the path. But for now, I want to see how they work out. If they're not in the way and clobber into anything, I might just leave them for the quickness of changing stuff out. But I also want to see if they're going to push apart on me and be an issue, and if they don't, it would be nice. I'm going to make it so I could shim the middle for different size pipes, and we're going to see how the bottom works with just leaving them in a stock application. But I did take a file and kind of egg out a little bit of a channel in the middle. I don't know if it's showing up or not, just to kind of give it not a flat profile in the center of it. So I'm going to go get a piece of tubing, and we'll see how this makes out. We'll start rolling some metal and see if it makes good bananas. Alright, this piece is probably 8 feet long, something like that, 7 feet long. 7. And right now it's just loose. Just kind of seeing how it pulls the tubing through it. It seems pretty good. Let's go give a couple of cranks on her and see what it does for us. We'll go a little at a time. You push those dies apart a little bit. They're about there's about an 1/8 inch in the middle of them right now. Let's see what happens. Continues to do that. Again, if I put set screws on it with an Allen wrench, I know I can torque down on it a lot more. Yeah. The worst case is I can actually just kind of weld them together. Let's give me a slight bend. I'll show you what's going on. Kind of suspected it might, but see how they're pushing apart. So I'm going to take these two guys out and put set screws in them and crank down on them and see if that'll hold it together a little bit better. Alright, we got take 2. I didn't have any set screws because it was metric size. So I just threw some bolts in there and cranked down on them. Same idea. What am I going to do? I'm going to go, I cut the pipe to half its length. It's probably a 4-foot piece of pipe, 3.5, something like that. We'll put some pressure on it and we'll try it again. I could probably drill into the shaft too for like a little set screw spot, but I'd rather not. Looks like it's doing it right. There's a yeah, not even a 16th gap. Yeah, where's my little Cheeto bar? Don't see it making the dent the old one did. One thing I do notice too when you're doing it, the pipe seems like it wants to roll a little bit. I'd probably be better off putting a big old pair of vice grips on that. I stopped by one of the bike builders in town. Of course I grabbed the wrong size. And he had, just trying to get an education from him. He had a bender, like just a commercially bought bender. And he was saying this, he goes, that one does the same thing too. That you bend in the pipe and it kind of, it's making a banana, but it's also curling it at the same time. So let's see if I can kind of hold its plane. Feeling pretty good. It's got a couple of marks in it from I think the first time when it separated. I could probably polish this a little bit better too. Let's give her 2 pumps. And we'll go off the end of that roll over there. I should probably make sure like I pump it in the same place every time, so that the dent is where the scrap is, where you're going to cut it off. Let's just keep going with this and see where it... I'm into it for $8. Everything else I had. Ooh, that's getting hard. I don't know, that's pretty good though. The profile's staying pretty decent too. It's got a little bit of a... It's got a little bit of a... This definitely hasn't flattened out anything. It's the center's proud. I think if I take these off, I can feel some ridges in here. I should probably just take those and work them a little smoother with a file on the lathe. And I think we'll be just fine. See how the bottom side feels. Looks pretty decent. Decent enough for what I want to do. That's a pretty good bend too. Alright. I like it. I think it's a success. Didn't push a... really didn't push apart. And if I figure if I want to do fat stuff, I can still take those two, separate them. And the piece that I cut out, I may whittle down a little bit more to make like a spacer in there if I want to do a wide piece. And that was without cutting these. So you figure there's twice the energy on here than it is on these two. You know, it's divided. So if this has 1,000 pounds on it, these only have 500 a piece on them. So most of the forming is being done by that guy. So looks pretty good. I was worried about these deforming too, but apparently not. They seem to hold up quite well. And I did take the other block out of the other side so that it's tight from side to side now. Yeah, just enough for the bolts. And probably only last thing I'm going to put on is a couple of springs to draw it back down when you're done. And that's about it. Alright guys, I'm going to shut you down. It's probably a long video anyway. Again, thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, and all I need is a Bridgeport. See if I can make that next.